Hey guys, welcome back. I got another battle for you right here. I'm going to be the Lizardmen again, my favourite faction. But this time, a very different build than you usually see on the channel. And that's because I'm up against the Vampire Coast, piloted here by Plasma. So my front line is predominantly made up of these red-crested skinks, which are, you haven't seen this unit before on this channel. The little skinks, they're quite squishy, but they have these big double-handed mauls with their little eye. It's got the Eye of Sauron on that one, so a little orc-based skink here. Got a big massive in the front line. They're fairly cheap. The reason I take these ones over the normal skinks is they do a bit more damage, and they should be able to kind of, tear through the chaff that Vampire Coast normally bring, and do a little bit of hurt on depth guard. On the flanks, I also have a couple of units of skin cohorts, just the extra cheap. I had some points kind of left over. Now, guys, this is the unit I'm really excited to show you here, is the Umbral Tide, the Salamander Regiment of Renown version. And they're going to be rolling here with Big Ancient Salamander. So the idea here is the Salamander hits a big target, which then puts an effect on it, where they take more damage from fire attacks for about 30 seconds. And these guys come in and blitz with their anti-large fireballs and really tear down some units. Up in the skies, I have a little air force here. I've got the Colossadon Hunters. They're the Ripidactyl Regiment Renowned. Great anti-large tool. A little bit squishy in return, but they will tear apart anything large very, very quickly. I have Regiment Renowned Pterodon Riders over here. I'm not too good at using these guys. They're a ranged flying unit, and they can drop these rocks, which can do armor sundering, and they're very powerful. But I'm not the best with them at the moment. And for my leader, I've gone fairly cheap with a red-crested skink. There he is, just riding dirty on his big flying pterodon. Now, the pterodon really helps him with anti-large, but I've gone just for a cheap kind of dude there. Now, in the back, I do have the Legion of Shakwa. These are the Regiment Renowned Sarus warriors. The reason I brought them is because of their special ability right here, called the Shield of Shakwa, which gives 44% missile resistance to all troops around them when activated. And considering I'm coming up against a gun-heavy faction here, I thought that'd be really key. I've also got Lord Croak as my hero. Now, he's a wizard. He just has one spell, though, called the Deliverance of Itza. It has 3 different stages. Each stage does the same thing, but just slightly more powerful. And he basically drops a massive magical bomb. I try and catch some of those in action. Now, Vampire Coast here, haven't played them too often, but normally they tend to go quite chaff heavy, and heavy guns try and drag you through the mud. As you can see, my opponent has a long line of zombies. These guys are pretty cheap and cheerful, good at holding the line, and they won't break, including a few polearm varieties as well, for that anti-large bonus. In the back, he does have one unit of pirate gunnery mobs. He has the deck gunners and the Regiment Renowned version, which are in fact ethereal, which are right here. So deck gunners, guys, have these kind of big little cannons, do quite a lot of big long-range damage. For his lord, he does have Diaphin here. She is also ethereal, so a big physical resist, and she'll be dropping spells, and she has a lot of summons. You can summon crabs, knights, and all sorts. On the flank here, my opponent does have Depth Guard, and on the side, he also has 3 more units of Depth Guard, all with pole arms. These guys are the elite of the elite. They're vampires, so it's quite a small unit count, but they do have an ability where they do damage, they gain a little bit of health back. They're super elite, great at tearing through Saurus. Luckily, I haven't brought your standard Saurus build. Here's a unit of Sirens here, which are quite good. I believe they cause terror or fear. Let's see, they cause both. So they're pretty decent there. They'll be able to scare off some of my skinks, and they're quite tough and resistant themselves. So let's get underway, guys. As you can see, I'm advancing over this hill, which I was quite happy for, to try and block out these long-range guns. Luckily, my opponent didn't actually bring too many heavy guns. Went for actually a heavy elite build in a way, because yes, they do have the chaff, but most of their heavy lifting is going to be in those big units of depth guard, and I believe he does have 5. Salamander's going to be firing in some early shots here, and you can see doing some huge damage to the chaff. My opponent does summon some Promethean crabs here. These guys are just going to block me up as my opponent does try and move on top of this hill. Now this is perfect. This is exactly what I wanted to show off this unit. So Umbral Tide getting in there with their damage. And you can see with just one volley, they do a massive amount of damage to these guys. And when the Ancient Salamander fires in a shot, these are all going to be doing extra damage. And before they even get into combat, they've lost half health. They're going to get stuck by these skinks, and loads of damage is taking place. Here we can see Lord Croak's ability, dropping it right here, and boom, guys! The Sirens barely escape, all the ones in the Blast Raiders die, and this very expensive unit of Depth Guard get hit. This was the highest tier of spell Croak can do, and he just wipes that unit out by himself. So as you can see, my army is advancing, trying to use some of the trees for a little bit of cover, as my flying little squad here is going to swoop over, and they're trying to isolate this unit of Depth Guard in the back. Umbral ties to shoot into the front, trying to do as much damage as possible at the moment, while my army slowly moves up. And because of that spell on the left-hand side, my skinks are actually managing to get into the back a little bit, doing some pretty decent damage, although they will struggle pretty bad against the depth guard. Shooting down some of his guns, they're the only thing that can really threaten my flying goon squad here, who have dropped down on the back here and do some serious damage to these depth guards, who are very elite, but this version just has the axes and they're designed to kill infantry, not these nasty flying units. So you can see they're doing quite a decent amount of damage back. So the whole skinks have jumped in the front line now. Is this another spell coming down here by Karak? We'll have to wait and see. You can see the skinks are getting involved, including my Sarus here. And here comes another spell, decimating these really expensive units. 3 units there have almost been broken. And they're just getting torn apart now by these little grey skinks and these Sarus doing their flips, as they do. So the front line's going pretty well for me. My opponent has once again summoned some rotten Prometheans just on the front line. Luckily I spot this. And those salamanders are doing so much work, and the damage is huge. The Prometheans aren't really getting too much value. My goon squad in the back is up in the air, and they're going to be trying to pick off targets. I did see these pole arms come over who are anti-large. Instead I'm going to be trying to swoop down on top of these gunners. I'll do a little overarching view, guys. My opponent has left some sirens in the side. I did notice them, so I moved Karak away. But I knew my opponent had forgotten them, so I carried on shooting. He does remember them in a little bit though. There's a little bit of trouble here, guys. My lord does get caught. Very nice play by my opponent. Summons the damn knight errand. They're going to be zooming in, trying to take out my goon squad who had to come down to try and take down the Shade Wraith gunner. You see my lord is trying to scoot away there, and Karak is going to be dropping another spell in a second to try and break up this block. So luckily for me, the goon squad brings these guys all close together. Then Karak can just drop his spells and really do a lot of damage. Here comes the next spell, the Deliverance of Itza. And boom! Once again, just wiping out everything in this area. It's such a powerful tool, especially against these ethereal units. Now the front line, my skinks are grinding through with help from these salamanders and Karak here. Managed to break the front line pretty comfortably. These little skinks do jump around, swinging their two-handed hammers and taking down this rather cheap, zombie front line. So everything's pretty good now. My opponent is heavily on the back foot. They've got a little pocket of strength here. Now they're sirens, and their sirens are coming back and trying to taste down the Umbral tide. These guys are rather fast though, so spotting this, I do scoot them away, much like the ancient salamander. I really like these guys. They're fast. You can just run away and turn around and really do some damage. So in a second, these guys will be running off over to the side once they've loosed, a few more volleys. And even Lord Karak has popped into the front line. I won't get into him too much, lore-wise, but Lord Karak, he's one of my favourite units thematically. He's actually dead, but he's so powerful, his will was so strong. His spirit sticks near his body, which is rebuilt by his servants. And he cast the one spell he was casting when he died. Do you guys ever do want me to do any lore videos on the characters in this game? I'm quite happy to do that. I'm quite knowledgeable on some of the older factions. I used to play Warhammer Fantasy when I was a kid. I'll be more than happy to do that for you guys, to let me know. So as we see, the sirens are now being stuck into by the big ancient salamander, and these guys have been coming back with Lord Karak again. I believe he's going to be dropping a spell once more, just the first tier one this time. Didn't really have enough magic to do a big one. As you can see, tiny little explosion this time. Decimates them all. Now there's a little pocket of strength over here for my opponent, but it's really just his lord here who's kind of being gooned out. She's very tough, obviously being ethereal, she doesn't have magical attacks, and the real pain to deal with, but everything is piling in. I'm really gonna, butter her bread. And some units off to the side. My opponent seems to have one unit of depth guard actually hiding in the side. They could have been really vital to this. They have been overrun for the main point. And here we have the Colossodon Hunters coming down from the skies, popping a couple of spells here by Karak. He also has a shield, which doesn't use winds of magic, so it's not actually a spell, it's just an active ability. Give everyone a little bit of physical resistance as we take her down there. And all my opponent has left is Depth Guard, but they are starting to deteriorate as the battle is lost. And there we go. Well fought to my opponent. That was only a Pyrrhic victory, so it's a tough fought game. Let's go to the end stats here. So I actually really enjoyed using this list. I've been mainly using the one Lizardman list you've seen before, which is a really hardcore kind of elite, loads of big dinosaurs and temple guard type of build. But going up against Vampire Coast, I think it tends to favour Coast quite heavily. So I knew how I had to do something a little bit different. I couldn't take all the big monsters. I'm really pleased with how the salamanders work. So the ancient salamander debuffing units, then the Umbral Tide coming in and really doing some massive damage to those big targets. The skinks did their job. They kind of just, beat down the chaff and just were mass bodies. Didn't give my opponent too many good targets to shoot at. And the Flying Goon squad did pretty good. I need to get much better at using these guys right here, the Pterodon Riders. I'm much more comfortable, using, the Lord and these guys right here, the Ripidactyl Riders, who are much more close combat based. Crag, you can see, got a crazy number of kills, 204. A lot of those were on depth guards. So you see, my opponent brought quite an elite front line, especially for coast. There is all this chaff here, but 4 units of depth guard. These guys are super expensive. And as you can see, 3 units basically did nothing with the 0, 0, and the 9 kills. The 1 unit that did, that 25 kills, is only really going against skinks. They're not really paying for themselves. But well fought to my opponent there, Plasma with a Z. Fought with a lot of honour, fought to the death. So hopefully I get to meet you again. So a little bit of news, guys. For some reason, YouTube has taken away a ton of my views. Really randomly. I'm not 100% sure why it's done this. So if you guys would like to like the videos or subscribe, that's a way that I can actually, really see how much interest there is in what builds I do and see what, people want to see next and want to see more of. So just drop a like or a comment just to say hi. I won't bite. And if you guys ever do want to play any games against me, just send me a message. I'll be more than happy and, willing to play you guys. So I hope you guys had a good time, and I'll see you next time. Peace, peace.